Welcome to the B139. I'm Don Vito. I got guests here. The guy here, we don't go back, but we know a lot of the same things. So it should be a very interesting interview. Introduce yourself there, brother.
What's going on? Phill Pabon.
Okay, Phill Pabon. Tell everybody where you're from.
I'm originally from Queens, Astoria Projects, Hollis, Jamaica. I did all over Queens for years, and when I went to college, I came back. I started living in Brooklyn. I lived in Harlem for a while too. Mm-hmm. I'm all over. I'm New York, right. New York to the core.
Okay, how you holding up with this virus thing? I gotta ask people that, man.
Hey, man, it's funny you ask because everybody's like, "Where you going?" I had to think about it. I'm like, the new norm, right? You know what?
It's funny, but it ain't funny, man.
No, it's funny and it ain't funny, but at the same time, when you from New York, you black, you've been all over the world, you learn to adapt.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this is all about, adapting. You know what I'm saying? We got to adapt to what they would call the new norm.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that might be, I'm not sure yet, but most of the time, your new norm is what you shape it to be. Despite the obstacles. So
yeah.
So create your new norm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can't relate to that. They call it the new norm because my life and what I do is my thing. No matter what's going on out there.
Exactly.
I can relate to that. But I want to say something before we continue. I want to say we supposed to have comedian Wu on today, but he had a minor setback. He couldn't make it today. So shout outs to Wu. And he called, so I appreciate him calling, you know what I'm saying? Some guests just don't pull up, don't show up. But that man called me like, yo, V, I can't come, man. I say next time, bro. He said, yeah, I got y'all.
Right.
So shout outs to Wu. Yeah, but back to you, Phill. So let's take it back a little bit. So how was it when you growing up as a kid and stuff like that?
It was pretty cool. I lived in Astoria Projects and I grew up, Disco Twins era, you know what I'm saying, when they was doing their thing, and hip hop was just hitting that surface, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We could feel it. We didn't know what it was, but we could feel it, and I kind of gravitated to that. I tell people all the time I chased hip hop, throughout my career.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So everything I've done in my career, for the most part, has been part of that passion, that chase. You know what I'm saying? When I was growing up in Queens, and we moved from Astoria Projects, we moved to Queens Village, and I went to junior high school 109, and I only mention it because a couple of other cats that that became famous and kind of did their thing went to that school.
Hey, you give some names. What kind of cats you talking about?
Cats from Fubu. I had Keith, who I grew up with. Keith from Fubu. Power Rule. Latin rapper that kind of got big with Cypress Hill and all of them. A couple of little cats, Run DMC, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So when I was coming up in Queens Village, there was a pizza shop called Nero's Pizza, I believe it was, and it was, I don't know if it was Jay or Run's, it was one of their favorite pizza spot. So the cat that used to work there was an Italian cat, and he was scared to go to Hollis.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So he would ask me to go with him because, I wasn't scared.
Yeah.
So I'd ride with him on those trips to go to deliver pizza, and little did I know I'm delivering pizza to Run DMC and then playing music in the basement, which is their studio at the time. I think it was Jay's studio at the time, in the house, right in Hollis. So, as soon as I could hear it out the door, my man didn't want to even come out the car.
Right.
I would, go to the door. I didn't really work for the place.
I didn't know Hollis was getting down like that, man.
Yeah. I mean, hip hop was all over. I used to go like I started out in hip hop as a dancer. I couldn't rap.
Right.
I wasn't.
Break dancing?
Yeah, break dancing. I was a break dancer, so I used to travel. I used to come up to Harlem at the age of like 16, 15. Go to the different, there was a place in Queens on Queens Boulevard called Lost Battalion. And we moved from Queens Village to Left Rack. So I moved into Left Rack, and at that time I'm living across the street from cats like Akinyele and Nori's a shorty at the time.
Right.
N-O-R-E, respect to them, so I'm in Left Rack. I'm going to high school on Main Street. At first, I was going to Thomas Edison, and before that, you know, I used to always work. So I worked at the Coliseum, and when I worked at the Coliseum, I worked at this shop. It was like the concession stand, and I worked there with Damon John.
Okay.
From Fubu.
Right.
So I'm traveling through Queens through all these different scenarios growing up, but I'm working and alongside of all of these different cats that I know then that later I would either work with or you know they would do something big.
Yeah, around that time too, like being at the way you naming these cats, all of them like surface around the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Akinyele, Fubu.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? One DMC was already moving.
Fubu was a little. You know what's so funny? I grew up in Left Rack, but the Fubu thing didn't start until like when we got out of high school.
Right.
Because of L. I remember it was closely associated with L. I had a cousin that went to some other high school, whatever that L went to. I forget the name of his Jackson. Andrew Jackson.
Right.
So Andrew Jackson had like an ill reputation to be like one of those ill schools, and L went there. My cousin went there, so we would leave Edison, or I went to Edison High School, and before I went to work at the Coliseum, I would go cut class and go over to Jackson, and I witnessed LL in the lunchroom table with his man banging on the table, him spitting bars, you know what I'm saying? For the first time I'm seeing cats like that can actually do it. I heard records, Spoonie G, Sugar Hill, you know what I'm saying? All of those things has happened in the past, but now I'm running into these guys, you know what I'm saying? And the music was a big thing for me, so I couldn't rap. I was a dancer. I was a hip hop dancer. I would pop and lock. I was a break dancer, and I was pretty nice. You know what I'm saying?
You nice?
Yeah, I was very nice. I traveled the world.
You know Crazy Legs?
I know him personally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was a shorty, and like I said, we used to go to spots like Lost Battalion. You know what I mean? On Queens Boulevard, it was like a Parks Department Recreation Center, and a lot of famous ball players came out of there. That came out of Queens. Who was it? Kenny Anderson.
Kenny Anderson, Mark Jackson.
Mark Jackson. I don't know if he came. I believe he came.
He's from Queens.
He's from Queens. Yeah. But
Kenny Anderson, Mark Jackson. Who else that? Kenny Smith.
Yeah, he was from Left Rack too. So I'm around that at that time. But I'm a break dancer, and I was part of a little crew. I used to practice with Legs and what they call New York City Breakers. Yeah. And I was nice, you know what I'm saying? And then I later took that break dancing into being a hip hop dancer, and I danced for different groups, and that kind of what kind of sparked it for me and took me around the world.
So what was your first introduction to fashion?
Oh,
how did that start?
Well, it was always part of my movement, you know what I'm saying? Like, we know a lot of mutual people.
Let's talk about Miguel, man. We was talking about Miguel over God bless Miguel, man. Miss that guy, man.
Miguel Navarro, let's keep it clear. He was like a mentor for me, you know what I'm saying? I knew his family, I knew his brothers, because my older brother, moved in a certain, circles. He was actually a bartender at one of, a lot of the famous clubs of the 80s and 90s, late 80s. So, of course, Miguel and all these guys would come to the bar. My brother was the bartender. My brother took care of him. And then, by default, I would go to these clubs. I would get in early. I was young. I was not even 18. And, because I was nice with the dance, they would be like, oh, that's Jay's little brother. Let him through. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
right.
I would come in and, they had the little circles or whatever, and people would do their thing. And people were going there to party and hang out. I was going there to practice and put on a show. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
I was nice with it.
So back in the days, people used to dance and everybody used to spread
out
in the circle.
You know what I'm saying? But you couldn't.
That was big though. As soon as somebody started doing anything, everybody automatically.
Well, if you were nice, they spread out.
That's what I'm saying.
If you wasn't nice, they'd be like, "Fuck out of here."
You give me a flag. I forgot about that, man.
You know, so that's that's how I met cats like Puff, you know what I'm saying? Heavy D, you know, dudes like that. So, you know, I'm planting seeds early. They seeing me, I'm seeing them, you know, and then I would travel with it. Like I said, I chased hip hop, Jack the Rapper, all the different, you know, big conventions that we used to go to in Atlanta, Freaknik, you know what I'm saying, where, you know, the culture was.
Man, Freaknik wasn't no joke, man.
Oh, it was crazy. Philly, Atlanta, you know what I'm saying? You know, Black Bikers Weekend, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Bikers Weekend was tough
too. It was huge, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, you knew you would run into your folks, see people out
Virginia
there.
Beach was killing it at that time.
Oh, big time. You know what I'm saying?
Everybody going to VA. That's when VA was killing
Straight
it.
ride right through the tunnel.
Couldn't wait to get there.
I did it on motorcycles. I
did
it in cars.
We had the truck with the wave runners in the back.
Oh yeah, of course.
We bringing our own joints.
I had
down
family down there, so I would connect with them, and they'd hit the beach with the wave runners and stuff. But yeah, you know, those were like what they call the golden era. So, but at the same time, you know, I'm jumping in and out of town. Even when I was in high school, I used to work. You know, I always had a job. I was like a little hustler. You know what I'm saying? I had my little hustle, and I still had a job. I used to manage a studio called Power Play Studio in Queens, in Long Island City. And Power Play was where Eric B. and Rakim recorded, Large Professor, all these Epmd, Cool G Rap, Nas, you know what I'm saying? So my night job after high school is I'm the night manager of the studio. I'm the 11 to 11 a.m. shift. So you need a 2-inch reel, you get it from me. You need something set up in the room, you engineer, you need to do something, replace them, you need a new engineer. Whatever you needed in the studio, I was the guy to go to, and I'm still a shorty at this time. I'm hitting clubs, I'm working, doing, you know, like I said, I was moving, you know, and you know, I met Eric B, I met Rakim, I got cool with Large Professor and cats like that. And at the same time, again, I'm living in Left Rack, I'm tight with Akinyele. Akinyele is the one who put me on to the gig, introduced me to the owners. He's moving me, we moving around. I'm like the mouthpiece for the crew, you know what I'm saying? We start recording, making some music, because G-Rap was signed to Cold Chillin', Fly Tie at the time, and of course I went to high school with all of them. Me, G-Rap, Large Professor, and Akinyele went to John Brown. I transferred from Edison in Jamaica, and I went over to Flushing, and I was, you know, living in Left Rack, commuting to Flushing, going to John Brown, and I met, you know, me and Akinyele lived across the street from one another, and we got tight. You know what I'm saying? And he knew the dancing thing wasn't gonna last, and I wasn't gonna continue doing it. I was too smart for that. Not that you know, dancers are dumb, but you know, we were trying to chase some real money. You know what I mean? So, you know, I would, you know, go to meetings with him, and I was the manager. So I went from dancing in different spots, which also, you know, gave me popularity and respect. So I'm starting to knock on doors, and the people that I would see in the clubs now who worked at the labels, oh, you were that cat? Okay, I see you.
And you want to know something, not to cut you off? Back in the days, if you could dance, chicks be on you. A lot of people like people that could dance. Cause my man named D, shout out to D, he moved to Maryland. But yo, he was nice. Well, you know what I'm saying? And
I was
the chicks, everybody liked the dancers and women back then.
I was running with an elite cast of characters, cats who dance for Nice and Smooth, cats who dance for Heavy D, you know, God rest their soul. You know what I'm saying? Like I was running in like we weren't just like, oh, that nigga didn't know. You would see me in music.
You was running with the right people.
I was
Sound like to me,
Moni Love. I was dancing for Moni Love. I danced for Jungle Brothers. You know, I danced for Freedom Williams with CNC Music Factory. I'm traveling the world now. I'm like moving and shaking. I'm doing tours. You know what I'm saying? That took me to Jay Leno. I did Saturday Night Live. I did Arsenio Hall. You know what I'm saying? The dancing was not like a joke. It was something real. And like you said, I was, you know, I had a nice array.
You was around the right people. That's some good tags right there, too.
You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
Oh, yeah. But, you know, I ran with them, you know, out in the West Coast, Tony Tone, cats like that. And, you know, I was on tour for years, you know what I'm saying? Coming back, and another reason why I know Jose and those guys, you know what I'm saying? So they saw me coming up as a shorty. They saw me coming up in in the music business with the dancing.
Right.
But I was always one of them dudes like them. Like I looked up to them. The Phill suits, the Les suits, the Beyond Ball joints. You know what I'm saying? Like we went to private men's shops to shop.
Nietzsche.
Well, Nietzsche was my brand.
Right.
I started in Nietzsche.
So you had Nietzsche. So let's talk about the brands you had. You had Nietzsche. What else you had?
Well, we had Mecca. We started Mecca.
Mecca.
First.
Remember Mecca?
USA.
Yeah, Mecca had the.
Oh yeah. You saw Biggie wearing Mecca.
Yeah. I was around him at that time when he wore it too. Yeah,
so you know, I knew Big I moved from Queens into Harlem, and then from Harlem, I moved to Brooklyn. I lived in Clinton Hill on Fort Greene Park. I was maybe 8 houses down from Spike Lee's house, and so at the time, I had gone to college and I stopped dancing. I went to college. I was still doing business. I would come back and forth. I went to Howard, and that was kind of where I met Puff. So, you know, that's a segue into how I met him on campus. So I went to school. I studied a couple of years, but Puff left school early. And at school in Howard, we were all promoters. You know what I'm saying? Like he had his own company. I had my own little promotion company, and my promotion company was called Flyboy Entertainment. You know what I'm saying? So we was always on our fly shit, you know, on campus, you know, sweatsuits, velour, you know what I'm saying? We the popular dudes, you know what I'm saying? I'm breaking back and forth. I'm bringing popular DJs down to Howard. I used to bring Red Alert down. I used to bring Clark Kent down.
Clark Kent's my man. Yeah,
that's my family. You know what I'm saying? Clark, and I always tell his story because he was a blessing to me, you know, like a lot like Red Alert was as well. But Clark was somebody who, he met me, and we met years ago in the clubs, and when I came down to Howard and he heard, you know, he knew I was a promoter, I would call him and he would give me the love rate. Right. I would fly him down on my student discount with Delta shuttle, or go and pick him up if I needed to, him and Red, and I would bring them down to school weekends and have them DJ, you know what I'm saying? And that was my hustle. I was a promoter, you know what I'm saying? Me and my bro Lance, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, we had our little company, Puff had his company. Puff was bringing Heavy down, bringing, you know, different people down. And we all kind of had like a friendly competition within that. We were all doing our thing. So we all had our crews, whatever. Long story short, Puff leaves Howard and starts to work with Andre Harrell at Uptown. And he had a group, he had Father MC at the time. He treated them like they want to be treated. Hit record, him and Mary, he was breaking Mary out at the same time. And he had an issue with their dancers. Now, he knew me to be a dancer too, because prior to me even going to school, we were in the clubs and Bentleys and Red Parrot, tearing it up, you know what I'm saying? So when he came down to school, it was fam, you know what I'm saying? It was respect. And, you know, through Groovy Lou, we got even
That's
cool.
my man.
Groove fam, you know what I'm saying?
All day,
So that's my bro, you know what I'm saying? So, and that's 30 years, you know what I'm saying? To this day, exactly. So I connected with all of that, and then when Puff came back to New York to work for Andre, he was getting Father MC together, but they had problems with the dances. They was acting, whatever they was doing. Puff wasn't having it. Puff was, I don't got time for that. So he called me up and he was like, yo, come, I need you to come up to New York. I need you to finish out this tour with Father MC. I need you to, you know, choreograph the stage show, help them get it right so we can, you know, get this record gold and platinum. So I left school. Puff hired me. I went on the road, and pretty much like the rest is history. I never went back to school, of course. My mother used to cry and tell me, what are you doing? You got into Howard, you were going to be playing. I was going to play baseball for Howard. I redshirted the first year, but I was supposed to play the second, but I got too busy.
But you know, the same like to me, you connected with a lot of famous people, man, early, you know what I'm saying?
Early,
when they were young, you know?
Yeah, that was the magic.
So I know you had one of them doors you can go into and make something happen.
Well, that's what I was betting on, you know what I'm saying? And I used to tell my mother, you go to school to make money, I'm making money. Right. You know what I'm saying? You know, it takes people 4 years and $100,000 worth of debt to figure it out. I know. I know what I want to do. I know where I'm moving in this. I didn't know exactly where I wanted to land up. I just knew I loved everything about where I was going and where I was at, and the people I was with.
So now you got into the clothing game. So how did that start? Let's talk about that.
Well, you know, I was in the music game first.
The music thing, okay.
I was in the music game first. I went from being a dancer to being a manager. Got back with Akinyele, and at the time I had I had Akinyele, and we made a little money. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Ak was doing his thing. You know what I'm saying? And he always, and God bless him, he always kept me in position. Talk to Phill, because he knew I knew how to talk to people. I dealt with business. I negotiated whatever I needed to negotiate. I studied law when I was at Howard. You know what I'm saying? I was an economics major. I understood consumer behavior. I understood business.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? From early. That's what connected both him and I. We was on our business hustle. Whether it was, early on and it wasn't so legit, or when it was later on and we had to be legit, and we knew what we were dealing with because our families were depending on us. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I puts me in position. I had an accountant at that time, and I had a small account, you know what I'm saying, but I was getting money, a couple of dollars here, doing different things. Even from my dancing, I wouldn't spend a lot of my money. I would bank it. I'd live off my per diem. You know what I'm saying? And I would send my money home to my mom. She would put it away for me, and I would, try to build something up.
Yeah.
So I wasn't at a blank. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My accountant at the time is like, I want to introduce you to this guy. His name is David Sonnenberg. He's a middle-aged white guy, Jewish dude, but he's a Harvard grad. He's one of the top guys in the music business, and I think he could use somebody like you on his team. And I said, well, what are you talking about? What do you mean? He said, well, I want you to meet him. So I go do the meeting. I went up to 81st and Riverside Drive. First of all, I've never been in that area. I'm Harlem, Brooklyn, Queens, you know what I'm saying? And I'm walking from the train station, and I'm walking, and I'm like, I hit Riverside Park, and I'm like, whoa. You know what I'm saying?
They got some paper over there.
They got paper over there. These little mansions over there. They're not like homes or houses. These things are mansions.
Yes, they are.
And they're overlooking the west side of Manhattan. And, it was just a whole different view.
Yeah.
And when you start getting different views, now don't mind me, I had traveled before, but I never really seen established generational money. And this dude had a townhouse on Riverside Drive. And I walked into his office, and it was like art, you know what I mean? Like next level, like Picasso. He had I don't know if it was a Van Gogh in the ceiling, in the tapestry of the thing. So I'm sitting in his office, and the whole time he's chilling. He's got jeans on, he's got a collar shirt like me, and he's got on some nice shoes, and I could see his watch. He's got one nice basic rollie.
Right.
And he's twirling, and he's got this thing of quarters in his hand, and he's just flipping the quarters while he's talking to me. But when I look around, it's like real art.
Right.
Like
Rich
art. And I'm listening to the way he's talking, and then he's taking a couple calls in between. He's talking to me, and the people he's on the phone with is blowing my mind.
Right.
Donnie Ienner from Columbia Records, Jimmy Iovine, Tommy Mottola, Gerald Busby, Motown, and Steve McKeever, VP of Motown. And my mind is blown, you know what I'm saying? But I'm trying to keep my cool, I'm cool, whatever. So he's like, when I first met him, he's like, I need you to do me a favor. I did some homework on you. You come highly recommended. People love you. You've been doing your thing for a minute. I know you're trying to jump into management or whatever, but I need your stage expertise. I need your dance expertise. I have a group that's signed to Sylvia Rome, and they're in the second half of a tour that they have to finish, that they're obligated to finish. Otherwise, the record's going to be a flop, and they're going to owe a lot of money to Atlantic Records or whatever label it was at the time. And he said, the group broke up. I can't get them to get back together. There's a black guy and a white guy. The name of the group was Natural Selection. And they were like, the black dude was like a protege of Prince. He wasn't like personally attached to Prince, but that was his idol. And he was a pop dude. Right. So he wrote all the shit. The white boy played it. And they were like the dynamic duo, so to speak. And they couldn't get them in a room together again.
Right.
So I said, I'll give it a shot. He flew me out to Minneapolis. I lived in like a Howard Johnson's or something like that, like one of these there's a Holiday Inn over by the University of Minnesota's campus, and I met with each of them individually. I talked to them, and I kind of laid it out for him, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And through my negotiation skills and my people skills, I got him to get back in the room together. Not only did I get him to get back into the room together, I got him to get back together.
Mm.
I got him to start rehearsing together.
Right.
I put the stage show together.
Mm-hmm.
We got it going. The tour started. I'm on tour with Julian Lennon, John Lennon's son,
Mm-hmm.
Kool and the Gang, and a bunch of other mega pop stars.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing this tour around the country. We finished the tour. The tour was a success.
Right.
These guys are happy. Sylvia Rone's happy. The record goes gold, probably platinum. I didn't keep tabs, I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I get back to New York, and David and I sit down again and meet, and he's like, thank you very much, that was great.
Mm-hmm.
You did a great job. I couldn't have scripted it better. He was like, unfortunately, those guys are not gonna continue being a group anymore. We have nothing to do with that, but what we were obligated to, we took care of. I was like, great, I'm glad it worked out. So he's like, I hear from Mel Schnoll, who was my accountant at the time, that you do hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, that's what we do. Eat it, shit it, live it, dream it, you know, sleep in it, swim in it. You know, I'm surrounded by it. All my friends are
Mm-hmm.
in. And he's like, yeah, well, I want to hear some of the stuff. I don't know anything about black music, but he was managing Jim Steinman, who wrote Meatloaf, the rock band's music.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember Meatloaf.
I remember Meatloaf. I know
He used to
the
bite
music.
the head of, I don't know, he was crazy hard rock, but multi platinum.
Right.
30, I mean, Meatloaf probably is 100 million records.
Yeah, them rock and roll dudes, they sell a lot of
Yeah,
records.
he had another group called Spin Doctors, and they were like a rock alternative group. And actually, one of the members of the band lived in Left Rack,
Mm-hmm.
black dude who played bass. So I was familiar with the band.
Mm-hmm.
And he sent me out a couple of times to go scout them to see, you know, they were doing college shows at the time. And so I started, you know, getting involved in rock music. But then I told him, he was like, what are you working with? I said, I got a kid named Akinyele, and I played him Akinyele.
Mm-hmm.
I played the first, I played live at the barbecue for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he heard live at the barbecue, and there were other people in the office that just went crazy. And it hadn't even come out yet. It was like, that was the recording, like the original recording. And I played him some demo stuff. And then he was like, he thought Akinyele was amazing, just intellectually as a what Akinyele would call himself, a cunning linguist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, cunning having to do with the sex talk, but linguist as having to do with the command of the language. Because, you know, Ak was a very intelligent dude. You know, people don't know that he was Panamanian. He wasn't just a black dude. He had culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? He's traveled. You know, whatever. Ak was actually he gained millions even before he had a record deal.
Mm.
So he had money already. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He had an accident. That's another whole story. But he sued, and you know he was awarded.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, so I bring in Akinyele, and Akinyele pulls me to the side, and he's like, yo, you did it, Phil. I said, what are you talking about? He was like, this is what we needed. I said, what are you talking about? He says, me and you can't go in the offices with Jimmy Iovine. We can't go in the offices with Tommy Mottola. We're not getting there unless he opens those doors for us. He plays golf with X, Y, and Z. He's on the phone all the time shooting the shit, and they're out at his house in the Hamptons every other weekend when he leaves work early on Thursday and doesn't show up again till Monday, Tuesday. Because that's he's earned that right. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We need someone like him to be that one who opens up the doors. Our first deal with Akinyele, I think, was with Motown Records. It was $450,000 in '94.
Mm-hmm.
That was just the recording side of it. Then there was another 300 on publishing.
Mm-hmm.
That deal didn't work out so great. We put like one single out. I wasn't happy, so
How many albums did he put out?
I put out about 2 albums.
About 2, right?
2 albums. But we probably got paid on 5.
Right.
You know, because Ak was very particular about how he handled his business and how shit should run for him.
Mm-hmm.
And if the labels didn't agree with that, they could go fuck themselves, as far
Right.
as Ak was concerned. So
Right.
he was a disruptor early. You know what I'm saying? And Ak really wanted to gain his publishing back early, but he knew we had the leverage and it was going to take some time. So long story short, Ak introduces Nas, when he's Nasty Nas, to David. He's actually signed to Searchlight Publishing with MC Search from Third Base. And we skipped over a whole chapter that came before management, which was, I was an intern at the Source magazine. So a lot of, from when they were a newsletter,
Right.
like I said, I was a hustler. I was wearing many hats. I was involved in a lot of things. And I was just moving and shaking with very little gas in the tank. But the passion pushed it, and I knew the opportunity was there. So I was hungry early. And I worked at the Source, and during the time when we created the Unsigned Hype, 5 Mics, and the Record Report.
Yeah.
I ran college promotions under one of the head of marketing dudes who was there. And I was an intern in the beginning when I lived in Harlem. I used to walk from 128th Street to Broadway and Houston, where the first office was.
That's a long walk, huh?
Yeah. Like I said, sometimes I had it, sometimes I didn't.
Right.
But it didn't matter to me. It just, I knew where I needed to
Opportunity
be.
was there.
The opportunity was there. So when I was at the Source as an intern, I kind of gained the position. They started paying me a little bit, but I was still doing my own company at the side. So I would leave the office, I'd go to record company meetings, I'd do meetings with Ak, do whatever I needed to do. If I needed to travel, I took my shit on the road, I did what I needed to do. They always showed me love, you know. When Biggie says, peace to Mateo, now we spoke bloods with Tony Montana, Sip the Yayo. Mateo is a real person. Mateo is a dude named Mateo Capolongo, and Mateo was like somebody who I met in DC when I was at Howard. Again, all of these people I'm meeting, lining up, and as I keep moving forward in what I think is my path, I run back into them. So Mateo sees me, we get together, he brings me into the Source. I start getting demo tapes from everybody, right? I'm critiquing records. Labels are calling the office off the hook, trying to find out who reviewed their album. It might have been me, it might have been somebody else. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gaining some power and understanding the demand of hip hop as a business now.
Right.
I can't dance for $100, $200 a night anymore.
Right.
That's not gonna cut it. You know what I'm saying? And it's getting to a time where that dancing shit is kind of like, oh, real G's stand on the wall and observe. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Play ball or something.
And I grew up around that culture.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, like, yo, let me see some pictures of it. There was a time for 10 years where I didn't take photos just because I hung out with so many ex-felons.
Right.
They weren't bad dudes. They was my peoples. They had a hustle. They had a drive. They had a style, a swag, and where I come from, they were the dudes.
Right.
I didn't play ball. I couldn't rap.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But where am I seeing $500 sweatsuits, BBS rims, Beamers? You know what I'm saying? Like, those are the only cats moving that type of currency.
Yeah, around that time, to be honest with you, the street hustlers was the ones that the rappers and all the dudes, they emulated them.
They wanted to be.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm glad you brought that up because they definitely emulated them.
Look at LL when he shot his first video. He shot his first video at the Coliseum Mall.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm hip hop. I heard. I'm there. Whatever I had to do to get there, I got there.
Right.
People will tell you. Anybody that knew me growing up, they'd be like, you know where he is. He's whatever party, whatever concert, whatever conference, whatever is having to do with the culture and hip hop, Phil's there. So LL shooting his videos, first video, he's big. I watched him go from the lunchroom table at Andrew Jackson High School, now he's shooting his first video. Right. Then my homie who I went to junior high school with, Keith Perrin, is one of the owners of Fubu, and then I work with Damon John, who's his partner, who I knew separately and apart, didn't even know they knew each other. He's making twist tie caps so that he can get it in the video. So I'm watching his hustle, and I'm like, now meanwhile, when we worked at the Coliseum Mall, we used to work our regular job, but then on weekends, we didn't work, and I would go downstairs to the dude that had the sneakers. I think his name was Mike or whatever his name was. And he was like, he had a sneaker booth. He had all the kicks, Pumas, every Adidas, the good stuff, like collectors collect now.
Yeah.
He had that shit.
Right.
And his booth was right across from Shirt Kings. So when you talk about my first fashion, I would have to say Shirt Kings. Because even though they were t-shirts and they were doing the spray paint, they were doing art, they were applying graffiti and graphics on, and that's what really was the beginning of streetwear. Quiet as kept. It didn't start with Cross Colors and all of those other great brands, but it started with cats like Fade. So I was on a call with him the other day, and I had to tell him again, every time I see him, I have to tell him that like, you began this whole phenomenon of even customization when you really look at it, because he was doing denim, he was making suits, you know what I'm saying? Back those days, you wasn't kind of doing it if you didn't have no custom Shirt King shit. Yeah. To a certain degree. And then, Dat was starting his thing uptown, you know what I'm saying? Because, Dat was doing the Gucci and the Louis thing. And Gucci was everything at that time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Just custom made. You know what I'm saying? So I'm watching all of these things happening around me. And I'm seeing that, but you don't just jump into something. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm in this music management thing. I'm doing my thing. I also am responsible for how my artists look. So my connection to David, the rock dude, I start bringing my black music acts to the table. I brought Akinyele. Akinyele then brought Nasty Nas, which was his name at the time. We brought in G-Rap, greatest rapper alive. We had Jungle Brothers, who I used to dance for, and now see me in a business role and partner with me. Bismarcky, you know what I'm saying? Large Professor. And a guy named Aini Kamosi. Here comes the hard step up, bird, I'm the lyrical gangster. That was my record.
Yeah, that was out back then.
You know what I'm saying? That was my record. Who else? A Jamaican female group called World of Girl, who was pretty big on the underground circuit. I mean, they didn't even have a record deal. They traveled mostly the Caribbean, but also Europe. You know what I'm saying? So they had a high demand. And then we had another group, which David had brought to the table, which he had me go out to New Jersey to a studio called House of Music. And House of Music was a huge rock studio. Like, all the biggest rock bands. I mean, I don't know who the names are, but if you were anybody in rock, Bruce Springsteen, any of these people, they recorded at these guys' studios. So they had a little group called the Translator Crew. And I'm like, what? All right. He said, I need you to go out there. I need you to... And his exact words were this, and this is for the record, this is history. He said, I think they're good, but I'm not sure. I've never worked in black music before, and I just think there's something there, but they're brought to me by a huge producer who I have to respect because I know his craft and I know he knows what he's doing. So if he hears it, then maybe there's something there we need to check out. So I go, I get in the car, I take a car to New Jersey, West Orange, New Jersey, and I go to the studio, and the group is downstairs. There's only two of them at the time, and when I walk in, it's Wyclef with the guitar. And Proswell is on the corner. Fugees. Yeah. Translator Crew then became the Fugees.
Lauryn Hill.
Yeah. So I checked them out, and I'm like, I knew Wyclef was like crazy talented. His guitar play, his sense of hip hop, you know what I'm saying? Everything that he was doing was like, he played John Legend's Imagine from the Beatles to a hip hop beat while he strummed the guitar. Yeah. And it's Lauryn Hill sang it.
Yeah, so, he's a musical genius, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. So I'm part of the management team, you know what I'm saying? David is the big dog. Contracts are with him. My deal is with him.
So he kind of playing behind the scenes a little bit.
I'm the side guy. You know, what can I command?
Right.
You know, who am I?
Right.
To him,
Mm-hmm.
to this. You know what I'm saying?
But you're eating though.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Akinyele made sure that we all made sure we were all checked. You know, you good? You signed? Okay, cool. I'm about to finish up. I'm gonna call you when I'm done, so we know we locked in.
Mm-hmm.
And that was how we kind of moved. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we tag teamed, and that was why I said he always, put me in position. So now I have the Fugees. I've got Nasty Nas. I've got Akinyele. I've got G-Rap. And I say I got in terms of projects I'm working on. I'm working with and for David Sonnenberg. They're signed to him, but I brought it to the table. I'm the orchestrator, and I'm the key man.
Mm-hmm.
What we call a key man, and a key man clause of an agreement.
Right.
I'm a key man.
Mm-hmm.
So, we had about 8 groups. We did 10 deals that year. Start to finish, album's done. And Nas's first album, Akinyele's second album, Fugees' first album, all within that circle of time.
Yeah. And they all blew up.
Yeah, they all blew up. So, Whirler Girl, the group who wasn't as popular as everyone else, all female, they were getting calls for shows, St. Thomas, St. Martin, St. John. This is money that they could be making, that they need to make because they have families too.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else has been locked into big deals. They're like still the ones on the outskirts, not moving along. I'm the point person. I'm getting the calls at night. I'm getting the calls in the morning. I need this, I need that. This isn't right, Phil. This is right, Phil. We appreciate it. We don't appreciate it. So I'm, quiet as kept. Management is similar to being somewhat of a glorified babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking to my groups in a way because I'm peeping game and politics in the music business, and I'm seeing how people are moving at the labels. I also signed another group called the Fugees.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember them.
Yeah, I remember them. They're from Queens, right?
They're from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Yeah. So my story with them is that I met them at the Source.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm doing a lot. I got a lot on my plate. My mother's like, you spread yourself too thin. I'm like, Mom, relax, chill. I'm on to something. I think it's like they all work together, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
I understood that earlier. Like they all work together. And she'd say, all right, Philip, you're master of all and jack of all, master of none is what she used to say. And I'm like, all right, you might be right, but let me keep pushing this.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, whatever. So Fugees, I meet them. I got their demo. They on some hip hop kung fu shit, and quiet as kept. That's my shit. And this is before Wu.
Right.
That I knew of them before Wu. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure Wu was doing what they were doing already, but Fugees, I came across them first. I was at the Source. I got the demo. I'm listening to it now. It's hip hop. It's reggae. It's martial arts in terms of the concept, and I'm saying to myself, this shit is different. It's kind of dope.
Mm-hmm.
But the lead dude is like the king of the speed rap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's fast.
Oh,
yeah.
and to this day, he's that dude. I think he's working with Busta now and some other people. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
It's just a test.
I ain't heard from him in a long time.
Yeah, he's doing his
He
thing.
was a fast rapper, dude. I forgot.
Yeah, but he
about
was
Fugees.
good too. He spoke
They had a couple songs, right?
Ring the Alarm, went platinum. Both
Yeah.
of our albums
Yeah,
went
they
platinum.
was hot though. They was hot at that time.
So there was a.
What's the other dudes from Jersey that came out?
They was down Shaq.
Oh.
Fugees was down Shaq.
Yeah. We did Shaq's first record.
Hey, what about Das Effects?
Das Effects, yeah, as well.
All of them came out around the same time,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. We all came out at the same time. We were
yeah.
on tour together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we used to do shows together, all of that. So I got Fugees. I get them their deal.
Mm-hmm.
They're from East Flatbush, Brooklyn. I'm at the Source, but I'm really segueing out of the Source.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to squeeze David Mays and those guys for some bread.
Mm-hmm.
They're not biting. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you're not the only cool kid we know. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
that's what it was kind of coming down to. And I was like, I got to get real money, so let me keep doing my thing. So I used it as a base, as a resource. I met the group. When I met the group, I'm like, there was and I had just come back from Howard, mind you, and there's a hip hop conference that's about to take place, done by a brother named Haq Islam called the Hip Hop Cultural Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a hip hop conference at Howard University. And I had the brainchild to say to myself, I need to bring Fugees to that because I'll get them on all the showcases. I know everybody on campus. I know everybody doing a promotion or a party. The dude that's running it is like, whatever you need, Phil. They call me by my last name. They're like, whatever you need, Pabon, whatever you need.
Right.
I'm like, all right, cool. So at the time, I'm also trying to learn management at the same time. So I'm hanging around from my connection from Queens Village. I'm hanging out in Russell Simmons' office when he had the office on Varick, but he also had the management company on Houston Street with Francesca Spiro. She was his partner along with Lior. So they have Rush Management. And at the time, they signed a group to the management company called Leaders of the New School. So Leaders is like dope. I got Leaders, and I mean, I don't have Leaders, but I got Fugees. And I think that there's synergy because Buster and my lead dude can rip any show in anywhere in the world and it'd be good. So
yeah, that's true.
prior to that, I had worked out a scenario with Buster, and peace out to Buster, that's my dude. Because he was somebody, you know, his energy was like something that put a battery in my back as well.
Right.
He was like, yo, Phil, we already got management, we know that. Road manager's cool, but he don't have the connects like you got. Because I was doing the radio promotions with the Source. I'm doing video promotions with the Source. I'm working with all the labels. So I'm touching and moving, and he sees that I have like some sort of capacity. And, you know, Buster's very calculated. He was like, yo, get us some shows. We'll go down to the Cultural Initiative with you. Let us break our single, promote the single. And I said, in return, I need you to let my group open up for you. If I get you any shows, we get any type of performances, just allow them one song. Let them open up for you. And Buster agreed. And so we went down to DC. My mother rented a van. I still didn't have my shit together. I got in the car. Everything's on a shoestring budget. We get down there. Miracle after miracle after miracle. I did a promotion. I helped somebody out. They hit me off. I rented the van. We drove from New York to DC, but on the way we made stops at radio. On the way we made stops at video stores. On the way we made stops to different like locations, and we promoted. We got to DC, and we're on Georgia Avenue at Howard, and I used to live right across the street from this place. There was a Tower Records there, and I knew the manager. So I'm like, I take the group. Buster's like, yo, let's go to the record store. Let's see how our record's doing. They had just been released. Just another case of the PTA. You know what I'm saying? Blew up real quick. So we're in the Tower Records, and I see my man who's DJing up in the booth of the record store. The manager's walking around. I see him. He sees me, daps me up. I'm introducing him to everybody. Leaders come in. I introduce them to Buster. They play Leaders of the New School. The place goes bananas. First time they're hearing it. These are the promo cassettes.
Right.
Cassettes. You know what I'm saying? So they're playing it. It goes crazy. Everybody loving it. Leaders want to break out. They want to do something else. I tell the manager, I got my group here. I need you to play this demo. Play it, put it in. They put it in. It was Ring the Alarm. I had the group go up in the balcony, and they were kind of like doing it with the mic, but singing over the lyrics. People going crazy. There's a crowd inside. There's a line outside. People looking to come in. The shit is, you know, they doing their thing. Little did I know that in the crowd was the A&R for Jive Records.
Who was at A&R at the time?
Her name was Sophia Chang.
Okay.
She actually manages RZA to this day. And
Right.
a lot of the Wu-Tang. So Sophia Chang, Chinese girl, she's the A&R Jive Records. She's like, who are you? Da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, I'm Phill Pabon. She was like, R.I.P. She started calling. She didn't even want to say my name. P, here's my card. Monday, when you get back to New York, we should meet. I want to sign the group. And I'm like, okay then. Go back to New York. During the whole time, you know, people can get, like I said, it's like being a glorified babysitter at times. When we were going down, you know, and this is, I don't want to talk about anything negative, but the clash of personalities, both in leaders of the new school as well as in Fushnikin, was a lot going on. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to keep everybody calm. I'm trying to keep everything moving forward. There were points in times where we weren't going to move forward because somebody wasn't happy with something. This one was upset about this one. With, you know what I'm saying? It was, and it taught me a lot of just managing relationships. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And trying to get the most out of people while under certain types of stress and duress. But long story short, you know the history.
Yeah, they split up. They split up.
Well, the Fushnikin split up over time. Yeah.
I'm talking about that's when Bust
Yeah.
Brown. That's when he
Well,
left.
it was evident he was on a whole nother time of energy when it came to his business and his art and his craft.
Mm-hmm.
He took a lot of. You can never say you can take too much pride. I can't say too much when you are trying to be a master of your craft.
Mm-hmm.
And he would say it to you in your face and say, and you can't stop it. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of energy was like, and sometimes it came off disrespectful to people because he was so short and emphatic and they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
But I respected that energy.
Did you ever run across the Tribe? Because the Tribe was around at that time.
Well, you know
All of them was like in the same circle, right? Tribe Called Quest.
We signed to Jive Records, which Tribe Called Quest was also signed to.
Yeah.
Fife Dog, God rest his soul, was related to Chip, the lead singer of Fushnikins. So
Right.
they were cousins.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I know Tribe because I used to dance with Jungle Brothers and be part of Native Tongue, like I told
Yeah,
you.
Jungle Brothers, I think, Red Alert Cousins or something like
Yeah,
that?
their family.
Yeah, your family.
Their family. When I came back from Howard University, Red Alert's mother put me up. I lived in Red Alert's crib on his couch in the living room,
Mm-hmm.
surrounded by records.
Right.
And when I got my first place, because me and Mike G grew up together
Mm-hmm.
from Jungle Brothers, and that's his family, so
Right.
they just treated me like family.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So when I got my first place on 129th and Convent that I told you about,
Mm-hmm.
they gave me my first pieces of furniture so I could have something to sit on
Yeah.
and sleep on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I had a lot of people taking care of me, a lot of people, seeing the potential. I guess I've always had good energy, you know what I'm saying? I always bless people, you know what I'm saying? And I did a lot
You've
of,
been around a lot of important heavy hitters, man. That's really that blew up around that time.
yeah, so we're in the music thing, the music is going great. I'm starting to feel a little funny about the way the music business is going, just content-wise and quality-wise, I'm starting to have my own family, you know what I'm saying? I'm starting to move and shake in a certain way. And I'm calling up the clothing companies. Now I have established groups. Fugees is multi-million-dollars out the box. You know what I'm saying? I also went to high school with Salam Remy. Salam Remy is a producer. His pops is a famous producer. And if it wasn't for Salam Remy's remixes on the Fugees, they might not have made it. And they may agree with me on that. They may not. You know what I'm saying? But they will tell you that those remixes of 2 or 3 records from the Fugees made a world of a difference. And I can say the same for, when you mentioned Tribe Called Quest, Ali Shaheed, another one of my bros, who was the producer for Tribe along with Q-Tip, he produced some tracks on Fushnikins. So it was his remixes and his production that kind of salvaged that situation too early, before it caught legs. And again, they may agree and they may not, but they have their right and their own memories of it.
So you said the music thing started to
Yeah, I started.
change a little bit. So you got into the clothes or something like that?
I'm not
What you wouldn't do?
racist. I'm not whatever. But when I see, when rule number 4080, record company people are shady.
Yeah.
I got these white boys telling me what black music is, and I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? Do you understand I live this shit? Your opinion is cool, but you inherited your position.
Right.
I earned mine. I'm through these doors on my own merit, not daddy's fucking relationships or your Ivy League connections. That's what I'm thinking of myself, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I just noticed and then the type of content that they were trying to push through, And I love gangster rap, but I knew what it was going to do to people who were very, impressionable. These are our idols. So, I'm a fan of Public Enemy. Around, when I was 17, 18 years old, I read How to Eat to Live by Elijah Muhammad. You know what I'm saying? I've been following The Nation and Minister Farrakhan and Elijah Muhammad for many years. I grew up a Christian. I studied the Bible, I studied the Torah, I studied the Quran. I studied.
Right.
I'm what you call a seeker, true seeker.
Right.
So it's a never-ending journey, and sometimes I'll take a lot of information in and then I let it go. But at the same time, I'm seeing how they're moving politically. I'm seeing how the money is moving. I'm seeing how we, like we signed Akinyele to Interscope before Tupac. I did a $650,000 deal with them in the 90s. But those are all recoupable dollars that Ak had to pay back. Thank God we sold records.
Right. Yeah, they was a lot of deals back in the. They said the record labels were shady.
It was modern day slavery, and the more I experienced it, the more I learned. The more I understood how publishing worked, the more I felt the worst. I felt bad. It just wasn't good anymore. You know what I'm saying? So I'm calling the clothing companies to get product from my groups while they're on tour, videos, shows. We got to stay fresh. That's where we come from. That's what we do. You know what I'm saying? They're not responding the way I would think they should. And don't get me wrong, I'm feeling myself at this time. And I'm feeling like, I've done enough and I've done a lot. I'm still doing more. And you're going to know my name, and I had like this vengeance thing. I always kept a chip on my shoulder because they didn't cooperate. Oh, okay, you think you're too good. They told me to go to stores and buy it. Like, can I get a discount? They were like, no, you get paid full retail. And that was an insult to me. That was an insult to my groups. So as I began to get more and more disenchanted with, the music, the business of the music, the politics of it, I started working with these guys who, were in fashion. That was where I was getting clothing from now. That was, became a source. So they would have, access to clothing. I had the groups. The clothing companies were unknown. They were becoming popular because of my groups. And I started making that connection. I started, product placement, product seeding, sponsorships, endorsement. So it opened up a whole nother level of thought for me. And these guys that I was working with, we were working on two sides of the coin, so to speak, but we would always get together and we had they were like, yo, what are those? You know what I'm saying? Like, where the fuck did you get that? Like, who made that suit? I would have custom stuff made, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had my own tailor. I was doing things, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to go with the Dapper Dan scenario because I'm Farrakhan. I'm coming from Nation of Islam mind state, 5% nation. And no disrespect to him or that movement, but I felt it was worshiping a European brand. I'm like, why would I want to do that? When we have the power. Why do I need to? But I respected the business model, and I respected the culture of it. So to me, he was an icon. I just wouldn't have chosen. And he took that lane already, right? So what was I gonna do? So I started having custom stuff made or whatever, and then me and my guys got together and we were like, yo, we ought to start our own shit. My guy at the time, he's interning, he's finishing up Pratt, Parsons School of Design as a designer. His partner has just graduated, Parsons School of Design. Now I have the ammunition to go and create a collection. And that's what we all want to do. And to be honest with you, they brought me in because they couldn't see anybody else doing the marketing because of what I had already walked them through in their experience just coming to New York. By the time they got here, I was the man. They couldn't go to a nightclub without me unless they put my name there. Or I called somebody. And so that was that was what made me valuable at that time. Little did I know, dancing in clubs and being at every nightclub in the city, knowing every security guard by name because I was a dancer and I used to go to the clubs and they all rotate everywhere, that would be my power later on. So, Anytime they wanted to do something, I showed them New York. New York is my town.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As far as I'm concerned. And Jose will tell you that. And we roll together like that. And you know how that our family rolls. You know what I'm saying? Like, we came up from that. That's what we're known for. You know what I'm saying? So, long story short, we start putting our heads together. They have a brand that they're working with that's already being put out, but it's some whack shit from the West Coast, but it's a platform. So we start taking that brand, it's called Razzie, from a company called International News. And what did I do? I called Buster up. I'm like, yo, Buster, you want to do a clothing ad? I'm like, they paying. He's like, yeah, no doubt. I paid Buster, leaders of the new school, we did the first ads. That shit went to Source Magazine where I was an intern, right? I got a discount on the ad. It's all coming together, right? Right. So, ad in the Source, shit starts blowing. The owners of that company are like, yo, if you guys came up with a brand, we'd probably back it. They've been in business for 50 years. They got everything. Production, they even own retail stores. They had over 50 stores of their own. We could have just sold them in our own stores by ourselves. Long story short, we're sitting on 34th Street, I think it's 34th Street, right, or 35th Street, corner of Macy's, right in that Pershing Square area where they have the seats and stuff like that. And there's a pizza shop there, I don't know if it's still called the same, it used to be called Bravo Pizza. And that was a little pizza shop we used to go to meet and talk business. I would come from where I was coming from, they would be at the office, wherever, we'd all meet right there. So we're sitting there, we don't even have a pen and a pad. We're pissed. We're like, we gotta get our shit together. We gotta do something. And I forget who came up with the name, but one of the guys, wasn't me, came up with the name Mecca. Mecca USA Clothing. And Mecca was called Mecca United Sports Apparel. It was originally called United Sports Apparel by Tony Sherman. Because he was my guy at Parsons who I was connecting with, doing all this work with the music guys and the fashion. So we saw the power that we had with what they call influencers today, before social media. And we just had a lineup, and through their designs, and I wouldn't say I was a designer, I was a creative director, so to speak, but not the creative director. Like, I would give my input. We all gave our input. I'm coming from what I call drug dealer chic 80s. You know what I'm saying? I'm Alessi, I'm Tree Torn, Polo, still to this day. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, with Carl Canal.
No, I didn't. Carl wasn't out then.
Oh, he wasn't out?
Carl wasn't out then.
It came out later?
Carl came out later. Cross Colors came first.
Cross Colors, yeah.
Cross Colors came first, and I didn't really like their product. I respect to them, but I didn't really like the product because I had a bigger style quotient. I'm coming from,
suits and all that.
Suits,
they got that
custom.
yellow and green
Yeah,
and the loud colors. Yeah.
And they had cardboard belts.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a real belt. And I was like, this shit's kind of cheap.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's not wavy to me.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? So I wanted a product that was better. And then when we came up with the name Mecca, and we put together our first collection, and the first collection, we went from 0 to 30 million in 18 months. First year. The fashion was on another level. The materials were on another level. People reacted to it. You know what I'm saying? I had every celebrity wearing it. If you remember Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he wore Mecca.
Yeah, he had a baggy Mecca show. Yeah.
Bill Cosby, on the Cosby Show, wore Mecca. And that's from my Howard connections. His daughter went to Howard. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, she did.
Yeah, and then I have a guy named Omar Rambert who's related to Will Smith, who works for Overbrook Entertainment, which is his production company, and he was my guy from my Source days when Will was an artist. Now he's on television. Quincy Jones' daughter, Kadada Jones, became a friend of ours because of Mecca. She would fly out just to hang out with us at the office. You know what I'm saying? So I got Quincy calling up on the phone. I got Kadada Jones in my office. And at the time, she's dating Tupac. So they were in and out of my office all this time. And then, TLC was out. the Waterfalls video, if you look at those jumper overalls, those are Mecca. You know what I'm saying? So these are iconic positionings for a fashion brand that comes out of nowhere, that's not attached to a celebrity. We didn't have an LL. We didn't have a Puffy. We didn't have a Jay-Z.
You didn't have no social media either.
We didn't have no social media either. This was legwork. This was grind.
Yeah.
Hitting every market, going to every state, going to every retailer. We told the story the other day when Macy's used to chase us. I used to run from the buyers at Macy's, the VPs. We used to run from them. Didn't want to talk to them because they could kill your business. And we weren't big enough to absorb the type of losses that they would be expecting us to take over a course of time. But you don't know that if you don't know the business. So for the sake of being in Macy's, people jump out windows. They used to come to our booth at Magic at a convention that we used to do, and we used to run out the booth and go to the bathroom and hide in stalls and take pisses. And some of us smoked at that time, we'd roll up and wait for them to leave. And then one of our assistants would come in the bathroom and be like, they're gone. You know what I mean? And we did that for 2 years until we couldn't avoid them anymore. And then we had to sell them because distribution, retail, everything was changing. You know what I mean? But we built a brand, you know what I'm saying? And that brand became pretty much a household name. And I went from being a dancer to being an intern, to being a student, to being a music manager, to now being the VP of marketing and branding for a $60 million brand that we started from scratch, from an idea on a napkin in Herald Square, on paper,
In a pizza shop.
in a pizza shop.
It's a hell of a story right there, man.
You know what I'm saying?
So what are you doing now?
I still work in fashion. I do a bunch of things. I got, again,
Kind of retiring a little bit late? Still moving, still pushing it?
I just have to, again, like the music business, the way deals are done in fashion and the gatekeepers who run it, I'm not the type to be with my hand out. Although my resume says I earned everything that I want to ask for, they don't believe that.
Right.
We never have that much value in their eyes, so they always define our worth. And that's what I don't want.
Right.
And I work too hard for that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, you telling them, you got a hell of a story there, man. You know, I'm sure.
So
Me and Doc, we like looking at you like, okay, that's a real story right there, you know?
So for now in fashion, I've partnered with a black-owned factory in China. I do private label production. I do merch for different celebrities and artists. Whereas you're not just doing blank t-shirts and stuff. I design a collection for you that's real fashion, cut and sew. And we have small minimums that I'm able to extend to smaller brands. I consult to other brands. I have a couple of brands that I consult for now. One of them is called LOM, Loyalty Over Money. Started with a battle rapper.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Yeah, and you know, we partnered. My partner's partnered with him.
It's about Hollow the Dawn, right?
Yeah, I don't want to say his name. but-
Okay, my bad.
No, you know, I mean, you know what? We all live and we learn, man. And you know, I show respect to everybody because you know we didn't get taught this business, so there's no handbook for us.
Right.
We didn't inherit anything. So, long story short, him and the Hollow and the investors have clashed. The investors feel that Hollow has misappropriated funds. They have proof of it, and it is the case. And the only reason why I'm speaking on that level is because some of the things that he did to hurt the company hurt me. Or affected me. Not hurt me because one monkey don't stop no show. And I mean that figuratively and, you know, literally. You know what I'm saying? So, but when you play with people's money, it's not a joke. It's not, okay, I need a do-over.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we had some understandings that there was some, you know, he's not always in his right mind.
Yeah.
So you being knowing him, he's not chemically altered at a certain point in time, and we don't know which Hollow we're going to get. And with that in mind, there's money on the line. We've got lines of credit and things like that going on, and you're running up tens of thousands of dollars in Ubers and Uber Eats and hotels and things like that. Like, my guys put money in, they didn't take any money out. What gives you the right? Until which they agreed to get to a certain point, and then they would be doing whatever because we were going to reinvest back into the brand and continue to build it. Now, we had been doing pretty well with them all involved, and Shopify, which was our partner, is still our partner, was extending lines of credit, so we were building the company structure, merchant.
Shopify.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, selling merch. And, you know, it was working. So, they sued him, long story short. He's lost possession of the company. They're working out fine prints as to how things should be moving forward. There's 2 websites. The one that he has, which he stole and changed passwords, and, you know, it's crazy. We won't get into details, but I help build brands.
Right.
Okay. I've consulted to many celebrities. One of my partners right now.
Y'all build clothing brands?
Yeah, clothing brands, apparel.
Yeah. We might want to talk to you, man. You know,
merch. I do merch. I do it all. You know, that's what I
me
do.
and Doc, we got some clothing, man. I'm listening. I'm like, we gonna have to holler at my man after the show, Chad. You caught that, right?
Whether I do custom stuff
Yeah, we
in the
need that.
States.
That's how God works sometimes, man. You know.
Hey, everybody on my.
We got some merch, man. We got the B139 merch. We got a lot of it, man.
That's the way you
So
go,
we're
man.
gonna have to have a conversation like in the next couple of days, or like a little conference call, us 3, and just pick your brain a little bit and see what we can work out a deal or something, man. You know.
Hey, I'll help you out, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I love giving people good advice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you don't need to make the same mistakes I made. Why? It'd be insanity for me to watch you do it and not give you a jewel or a connect or a key.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's what life is really about. I never received anything because people love me so much. They didn't love me, but they loved my spirit. They loved my energy.
Right.
They loved the fact that I wasn't selfish. I've always been a giver.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't ask for much in return, but I know my value.
Right.
And there's a difference. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But so, I work in fashion. I do merch. I love cars. I love automobiles. My brother and I are working on something in Atlanta. Won't divulge much, but right now I currently have, I got laid off. I work for Audi, the automobile company. I'm a salesman.
Right.
I like to make money.
Right.
You know?
You doing like your mother said, you a jack of all trades, huh?
Yeah. So I sell cars.
Yeah.
My wife and I day trade on the stock market. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I might even have a paper route tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter. I need multiple streams of income.
Yeah, you gotta
know what
have
I'm
them now. So I told somebody.
And once you pick one, you gotta get a little momentum because I'm done with the days of surviving.
Yeah.
I like to live. I've lived a good life. Albeit on someone else's budget and dime for most of it, but hey,
you live a good
I
life.
earned that.
Can you let everybody know your social media links, though?
Yeah. Phill Pabon at IG. That's PhillPabon. Philip S. Pabon on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook a lot, but I'll check it here and there. I'm on IG. What else? I'm on LinkedIn. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I build brands. I build business. I put products like scented soy candles in Walmart. You know what I'm saying? I help people build their ideas. We call it from ideation to sell-through, meaning the idea, the concept, all parts of how it's going to be created, produced, promoted, packaged, priced. You know what I'm saying? So, I learned a lot, and I also, I study business, you know what I'm saying? I study economics, and I study, technology now as well. I have a daughter, I have children, my son is 22, he's the next generation. I'm looking forward to him carrying the mantle in some way, shape, or form. My daughter's 15, she's a genius, and she's a true artist, you know what I'm saying? So all of the things that I got to experience is kind of like have been seeded in my kids. And when you see them, you know what I'm saying, and you see their talents, like my daughter wrote a song the other day. She's been writing songs since she was 5. She wrote me a text when she was 4. She speaks 3 languages, studies 4, Mandarin Chinese being one of them. She's fluent in Spanish, semi-fluent in French, completely fluent in English. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So can you let everybody know what podcast show you on?
Oh yeah, the Beat 139, baby.
All right, thanks for coming to the show,
I
bro.
wouldn't have had it any better. And I appreciate y'all for letting me on, man. You didn't have to do this, and I appreciate you recognizing, you know, what was going on for me, and all the people out there that support me. I truly appreciate you all. Bless.
Thanks for coming, man. Thank you very much.